Alright, trickies and trickers, time for the second episode of Review of the Day, which is Waltz. Captain's log started at 51408.6. I've been aboard the Honshu for 2 days now, and I still haven't spoken to him, but the doctors have assured me that he's made a full recovery. Maybe that's what I'm afraid of. Maybe I prefer to think of him as a crazy man, a broken man. He'd be less dangerous that way. As terrible as it sounds, there's a part of me that wishes he were dead. But that's a thought unworthy of a Starfleet officer. He lost his empire, he lost his daughter, and he nearly lost his mind. Whatever his crimes, isn't that enough punishment for one lifetime? Aboard the Nebula-class USS Honshu, Captain Benjamin Sisko thinks about the man he is on his way to visit in the ship's brig. When he arrives, the man inside the brig is Gul Dukat. After some small talk, Dukat engages Sisko in discussion regarding the appearance that Sisko will be making before a special Federation grand jury. Sisko tries to assure Dukat by explaining that, in the Federation, he is presumed innocent until proven guilty. Dukat then asks Sisko his opinion on Dukat's innocence, but Sisko says that he has not seen all the charges. Dukat then points out that it's not like him to equivocate. Sisko informs Dukat that he will not be tried until the end of the Dominion War, and that his appearance before the special jury is just a formality. Still suspicious, Dukat reminds Sisko that he is going to be the prosecution's witness. Sisko tells him, "I'll tell them what I know." Sisko then offers his sympathy over the recent death of Dukat's daughter. Dukat then suspiciously asks, "Do I detect the fine hand of Dr. Cox at work once again?" Sisko explains that he just wanted to offer his condolences with Dr. Cox's permission. Dukat realizes Sisko is sincere and apologizes. Dukat explains that Dr. Cox has encouraged him to speak of Zayal whenever possible, since it was her death that led him to his momentary instability. Sisko then informs Dukat that they will reach Starbase 621 tomorrow, and that he'll see him at the arraignment. As Sisko leaves, Dukat thanks Sisko, as well as Major Karen Reese, for caring for Zayal over the past 2 years. Sisko responds that it was a pleasure to have Zayal with them, and she was a wonderful young woman. Sisko then asks Dukat if he can get him anything, and Dukat jokingly requests a bottle of Kanar and an Orion slave girl, to which Sisko responds, "I'll see what I can do." Suddenly the ship shakes and a red alert is sounded. Karen walks out of Sisko's office with Odo on Deep Space Nine and informs the rest of the senior staff that the Honshu was just destroyed by a wing of Cardassian destroyers. She also tells him that so far Starfleet has picked up the distress beacons from 3 escape pods and 1 shuttlecraft. But because of Dominion activity along the border, the available ships to search for survivors will be the USS Defiant and the USS Constellation. Additionally, the Defiant is needed to guard a troop convoy near the Badlands in 52 hours, towards which, including a travel time to the Honshu's coordinates of the Badlands, doesn't leave much time for a search. Despite objections from the senior staff, Starfleet's orders stand. Worf orders an immediate departure, but before he departs, he reminds him that there are tens of thousands of troops aboard the convoy, so the Defiant must make the deadline. Sisko awakens and finds himself lying by a campfire in a cavern with Dukat. Dukat tells Sisko of how they arrived on the planet in the first place. Ironically, it seems like Cardassian destroyers shot them down. Sisko was into engineering when a plasma conduit exploded 15 meters down the corridor from the brig, resulting in plasma burns on the left side of his body. Dukat then informed Sisko that he and Lieutenant McConnell found Sisko when the order came to abandon ship. When Sisko asks where McConnell was, Dukat says he died when a piece of shrapnel hit him in the head just as they were carrying Sisko into the shuttle. Sisko was told that the engines for the shuttle were damaged from the shockwaves and it is grounded indefinitely. Dukat sets up a beacon in the cave, which broadcasts a general distress call. Which of them is the prisoner of the other will be decided by which side detects it first. Sisko agrees this is fair. He finds that his broken arm is held together by an improvised cast that Dukat has made, since he does not know how to use the bone regenerator in the med kit. Dukat excuses himself to search for food, since they have a week's worth of rations for the shuttle. "What do you plan to do with him?" inquires Rayun, to which Dukat replies that he and Benjamin Sisko have a lot to talk about. Rayun reminds Dukat about the time spent in the hospital, where he was curled into a ball, screaming and crying so hard they had to be sedated. This encourages Ducat. This recounting enrages Ducat, and he fires the phaser at Mayun, only to leave a smoldering hole in the rock wall behind him. Mayun is just a hallucination. Cisco wakes up to find Ducat preparing soup. The two discuss what happened the previous night as Cisco's bad with nausea, for which he apologizes. Ducat assures him the mess was nothing compared to his days as an newly minted Glen aboard the Cornair, reminiscing about an incident involving 3 men in a compartment that had gone through explosive decompression. Uncomfortable, Cisco tells Ducat to change the subject, and in turn, Ducat sarcastically proclaims, "The emissary has spoken." Ducat insists that Cisco should have a sense of humor about their predicament, pointing out the possibility they'll be rescued by the Dominion, commenting how their universe can be amusing when it allows for radical shifts in fortune. Cisco refuses to see any humor in their situation, but asks Ducat why he was looking around. Ducat claims it must have been the wind that he heard, offering Cisco a sip of his soup. As the two work on improving the flavor of the meal, they have another conversation regarding Deep Space Nine. Ducat asks about Kira, Odo, and Quark, attempting to convince Cisco that they never gave him a chance and that his policies toward the Bajorans were actually quite generous this time. Ducat continues to press, claiming his intention to rectify the mistakes between Cardassia and Bajor. Cisco casually sidesteps him by inquiring about the next ingredient for their soup. While Ducat adds salt to the soup, he questions Cisco whether or not he'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Cisco responds with a question of his own, asking Ducat if he really does care about what he thinks. Ducat counters with another question, asking him if he cares about what his friends think of him. Cisco realizes Ducat is implying that they are friends. It makes clear that they are not friends, and even though he is grateful for Ducat saving his life, that's as friendly as they can be, and no more. Again, something catches Ducat's attention with Cisco asking him whether he's sure there's something out, whether he's sure nothing's out there. Ducat assures him that it was the wind, but he goes out to the caverns to double check. Somewhere deeper in the caverns, Ducat now takes to arguing with the hallucination of Damar, who attempts to convince Ducat to kill Cisco now and escape to assist Cardassia in its victory. While Ducat converses with Damar, Cisco checks the transmitter and discovers that though the outside display indicates the system is online, the secondary display inside reveals it has been offline the whole time. When Ducat returns, Cisco tells him there must be something wrong with the comm system. Ducat first checks the outside display, reporting the unit to be fine. Cisco suggests that the casing should be taken off, and they should run a full diagnostic just to be sure. Ducat complies and checks the inside of the transmitter, but pretends to run a diagnostic, assuring Cisco there's something to worry about and the unit is working. Cisco then realizes Ducat is quite intentionally believing it turned off. Captain's log, supplemental. We picked up a total of 12 hours. This is ship's log, supplemental. We picked up a total of 12 Honshu survivors so far, but there's still no sign of Captain Cisco. We listed 12 hours before he must abandon the search. Alone in the cave, Cisco works on the transmitter with one of the tines he has broken off from his fork. After some tinkering, Cisco manages to reset the unit systems and actually bring the distress signal online. The tine then picks up a distress signal and sets course toward it. Meanwhile, hearing Ducat's approach, Cisco carefully covers up his work and hides his altered fork underneath his sheet. Ducat returns with a couple of cushions salvaged from the shuttle, shining his flashlight on Cisco, who appears to have just woken up. As Ducat helps Cisco get settled against his new cushion, the captain comments that it appears he is planning a long stay. Ducat explains only he wants the both of them to be comfortable as they await their rescuers. Once Ducat settles on his own cushion, he tells Cisco about an idea that occurred to him while he was at the shuttle. Ducat muses about how confused the Bajorans would be if they found both of them sharing the same hardships, calling himself the evil Gul Ducat and Cisco the emissary of the prophets. Ducat points out that it is just the two of them, all alone, that there is no one there to judge them, insisting that they both be honest with one another. He presses Cisco for his opinion on him, but is interrupted by the hallucination in the form of Kira, who whispers a rather contrary opinion of her own over his shoulder. She tells him that she thinks he's an evil, sadistic man who should have been tried as a war criminal years ago, put up against a wall and shot. This opinion prompts Ducat to question Cisco whether he agrees with Kira on how she feels about him. Cisco tells Ducat that he doesn't see any reason for discussing the matter any further. Ducat disagrees and continues, telling Cisco that his name and reputation have been slandered and twisted for the last 6 years after the occupation of Bajor. He says that he has been wrongfully vilified throughout the Alpha Quadrant and wonders how a lot of Cisco is one of his detractors. Cisco insists that he cannot really pass judgment on him because he was not there during the occupation, nor did he witness the matters with which Ducat had to struggle day after day. The characterization warns Ducat that Cisco does not want to tell him the truth because it would upset him. Cisco watches Ducat, talks over his shoulder at the air, realizing that Ducat is delusional and hallucinating. Ducat believes that Cisco is not being entirely honest, pointing out that he's not a man who hesitates to make snap judgments when the situation calls for it. Cisco tells Ducat he is right about being judged unfairly, that he himself judged Ducat unfairly, and that he probably had good reasons for everything he did on Bajor. Ducat agrees with Cisco, and claims that some of his harsher acts were forced upon him by Central Command. He then explains to Cisco that he wanted to use entirely different tactics with the Bajorans, that he wished to have ruled with a softer hand. Cisco assures Ducat that he understands, saying that he was a soldier and was only carrying out orders. Ducat eagerly agrees with this assessment only to be laughed at by Kira, who calls him a fool and tells him he is being patronized, for which Ducat yells at her. Cisco manages to return Ducat's attention to himself, suggesting that they ignore Kira and pretend she is not there. And Ducat wildly fires his phaser at his hallucination of Kira, with divine beams of 2 Honshu survivors, but they're not Cisco and Ducat. Ducat begins to sit back down when he discovers Cisco's hidden fork and notices one of his missing tines. Complaining after he checks the transmitter that Cisco must have repaired behind his back. Outraged, Ducat destroys the transmitter, cutting the signal the Divine had picked up moments earlier. From the debris of the transmitter, he dislodges a metal bar, which he uses to attack Cisco. Despite Cisco's interference over the view screen, Kira reminds Worf that he must follow his original orders to end their search, so they can assist the troop convoy in the Badlands. Dr. Bashir and Mel's O'Brien disagree with the Major's orders, trying to pretend they are unable to understand the message of the interference. Worf and Dex, however, know full well what Kira was trying to tell them, and Worf feels that ignoring the orders would be dishonorable. When Bashir openly remarks that he doesn't consider Worf's honor to be worth Captain Cisco's life, Worf dismisses him from the bridge and orders Helm to lay in a course for the third planet and continue their search for the remaining time. Cisco awakens with his head bleeding to see Ducat standing over him carefully, wiping blood away from a metal pole in his grasp. Ducat tells Cisco that he brought the damage upon himself, with the groggy captain making a mention of victims that must have suffered as he has. Ducat begins to name all the things he has been called, sarcastically calling Cisco the supreme arbiter of right and wrong in the universe. The frustrated Cisco demands what Ducat wants from him, and Ducat explains that he wants no further pretenses, only the expression of their true thoughts. Cisco takes Ducat up on his challenge and begins a fierce barrage of questions, true and false, of Ducat's role in the occupation. The murder of over 5 million Bajorans on his watch is Ducat's responsibility. Ducat adamantly claims otherwise, explaining they tried to save lives during his administration. Cisco then demands evidence. Ducat says the occupation had already been going on for almost 40 years by the time he became prefect, but the planet was not ready for full-scale colonization. He tells Cisco that Central Command wanted the situation resolved and they didn't care how it was done. Ducat reminds Cisco that he wanted to use a gentler hand when dealing with the Bajorans, reduce the output quotas by 50%. Ducat begins to list admirable orders he gave during his tenure for acts such as reorganizing the camps, abolishing child labor, improving medical care, increasing food rations, for which as a result the death rate decreased by 20%. Ducat also explains that he had reason to punish the Bajorans as well. On the anniversary of his appointment as prefect, an orbital dry dock was blown up, killing over 200 Cardassians. Ducat then explains that he then rounded up 200 suspected Bajoran resistance members and executed them. Insisting this retaliation, 200 Bajoran lives for 200 Cardassian lives, was justice rather than malevolence. Ducat then complains that the Bajorans showed the gratitude of his mercy by attempting to assassinate him at Terra Nor, forcing him to execute yet more Bajorans in response. As Dukat continues his stories, his solutions of Wayun, Damar, and Kira each support every statement in their own sardonic manner. When Dukat asks Cisco if he understands what he's saying, Cisco pretends to have been moved by his stories and posits that what happened to the Bajorans was not Dukat's fault but their own. Dukat eagerly agrees with Cisco's empty revelation as Cisco plays along, asking Dukat why the Bajorans failed to appreciate the kinder and gentler oversight he offered them. Dukat insists that the Bajorans were small-minded, ignorant fools, that the Cardassians were clearly the superior race, and they did not choose to be so. Fate handed them that role. Cisco needles Dukat further, insinuating he hated the Bajorans for not recognizing the Cardassians' superiority to them, and for not showing him the respect Dukat considered his due. Dukat finally erupts, belling his hatred for everything but the Bajorans, down to the Bajoran earrings and their broken and wrinkled noses. Cisco, still playing along, suggested to Dukat that maybe he should have killed them all, and Dukat, at the height of his fierce insanity, agrees with that assessment, proclaiming he should have turned their planet into a graveyard the likes of which galaxy has never seen. As Dukat mutters he should have killed every last Bajoran, Cisco strikes from behind with the same little pole Dukat used on him and declares, "And this is why you're not an evil man," before leaving an unconscious Dukat behind as he makes his way out of the cavern. Cisco finds his way to the shuttle through a sandstorm, discovering that it is still operational. As Cisco is about to depart, however, Dukat attacks him, though Cisco puts up a fight. His injuries and Dukat's insane rage prove too great to overcome. As Dukat levels the phaser at him, Cisco goes to Dukat to kill him, but instead, Dukat throws him from the shuttle. Before Dukat departs, he thanks Cisco for their time together, promising they will not be seeing each other for a while, and vowing, "From this day forward, Bajor is dead, all of Bajor, and this time even their emissary won't be able to save them." As the aft door to the shuttle slowly closes, Dukat, with the solutions of Rayum, Kira, and Damar all keeping company, smiles over an unconscious Cisco lying in the sandstorm. It's finally time for the Defiant to leave the system and rendezvous with the troop convoy. Zorf orders the course set. The ship soon receives a hail from Gul Dukat, lets the crew know where Captain Cisco is located. Ship's log, stardate 51413.6. We have rescued Captain Cisco, but we do not have time to locate Gul Dukat's shuttle. We're en route to a rendezvous with the troop convoy near the Badlands, and the captain is recovering in sickbay. Dax awakens Cisco, reporting that she notified Starfleet of Dukat's last known position, insisting that they'll find him. Cisco disagrees about the possibility of his capture and begins to discuss life, about how it seems so complicated and that sometimes appears everything is just shade of gray. There's nothing truly good or evil. He explains that to Dax after spending some time with Dukat, he's come to realize that there is such a thing as truly unambiguous evil. Dax points out that realizing the truth is one thing, doing something about it is another. Cisco then makes it clear what he's going to do about it. He makes a vow to stop Dukat from destroying Bajor. From now on, it's him or me, Cisco says before closing his eyes. Damn. So anyway, let's take a look at some story and script background information from this episode. This episode sets the stage for the showdown between Cisco and Dukat in the series finale, What You Leave Behind. Indeed, after this episode, they will not see one another again until the confrontation in the fire caves in the finale. Originally, this episode was to be structured similarly to the third season episode Distant Voices, with the regular crew appearing as different aspects of Dukat's personality. According to Ronald D. Moore, quote, Waltz began life as a story we called Dukat's Head around the office. The notion was for Cisco to go visit Dukat in the mental hospital, and while Cisco was trying to engage the catatonic Cardassian in conversation, we would push on Dukat's face and then go inside his head and show us the fantasy life he was living. The story would go into the past, dealt with his Bajoran mistress, his rise to power, the treatment of the Bajorans, and even the fantasy life he was trying to construct for himself on Terra Nor, with Kira as his wife, and himself as his beloved leader of Cardassia and Bajor. We struggled with the storyline for quite a while, but never found a way to make it compelling. Eventually, we noticed that the scenes we liked best were the ones in the hospital room between Cisco and Ducat. We decided to toss out everything but that. However, some of the character dynamics we had envisioned for the fantasy sequences eventually realized in the phantom images of Ayu, Damar, and Kira as they appeared in Ducat's hallucinations. End quote. Of the idea behind doing the episode, Moore explains, quote, the intention was to dig down and reveal something in Ducat, both to the audience and to the character himself. He really did hate the Bajorans, and he really just wished he'd killed them all. That's the dirty little secret he's tried not to confront head on all these years, and now finally, he said out loud and accepted about himself, end quote. I received from Bear echoes more when he says in the episode, quote, I want us to come away from this show with Ducat finally having faced who the hell he is and what he's done. To get him to finally accept that he hates the Bajorans and he wishes to kill them all. And he does. Evil may be an unclear concept in this day and age, but Ducat certainly has done evil things. And since he refuses to admit them, we then have to simplify things, deconstruct things, until we get the most simplistic level, which is, he does evil things, therefore he is evil, end quote. By the time this episode aired, the character Gul Dukat had become exceptionally popular among fans of the show, far more popular than any of the writers had ever intended. This is very much attributed to Marco Lima's superbly charismatic performances as Ducat. Lima's portrayal had presented the audience with a character possessed of a very real pathos and sense of humor, a character with the many different aspects composing his physiological makeup. The writers, however, were not entirely happy with how popular Ducat had become. He was supposed to be the villain of the show, and while they were proud to have created such a multi-dimensional villain, they were shocked when they saw fans online actually defending Ducat's behavior during the occupation. Despite the writers' attempts to make Ducat the epitome of evil in subsequent shows, however, his popularity would remain undiminished until the end of the series. Indeed, in relation to Waltz, some Ducat fans were unhappy with how quickly Cisco denounces him and tells Cisco about his initial actions as prefect of Bajor. Of the character Ducat, Moore comments, quote, Ducat is a hero of his own story. He definitely thinks that he's on the side of the angels, and he doesn't understand why everyone else doesn't see that, end quote. Excuse me. Furthermore, he explains, quote, I don't see the incompatibility of the idea that Ducat wanted to be loved by those he despised. This seems to me like a complex, yet very believable dynamic. I think you can find many, many instances where a person both loves and hates another person for very complex reasons. Ducat's egotistical need to be loved doesn't seem to be in conflict with his need to dominate and rule. In fact, one could argue that it was the Bajorans' refusal to love him, and so a twist of reality, that prompted him to hate them, end quote. The episode originally ended with Ducat saying to Cisco, you two will learn what it's like to lose a child, but the writers abandoned this idea because it was too specific and locked them into one path in terms of where to next take the character. They also liked the prospect of having to work into every single scene involving Jake that he was living his life under a death threat. Damar Mayun appears in this episode only has hallucinations witnessed by Ducat. Indeed, because this episode proved so popular with fans, the writers considered bringing the chorus back for the next episode involving Ducat, but ultimately abandoned the concept as they felt the technique carried a more dramatic weight by being used only once. Yeah, that's true. Anyway, and now finally, let's take a look at some trivia from this episode. This episode references an attempt on Ducat's life on Terra Ignore within the first month of his administration, where someone placed a bomb outside his quarters. This might well be the attempt on the life of Kira Maru, as seen in the episode Wrong is Darker Than Death or Night. When the attack on the USS Honshu begins, the officer's voice heard over the comm orders the crew to battle stations and for damaged control teams to report to level 5J. This unusual statement is customary aboard Federation starships of this era for the various levels of the ship to be referred to as deck, followed by its numerical position within the superstructure and its comparative location amongst the other decks, i.e. Deck 5, will be located 4 levels below Deck 1. One possible explanation for the term 5J could be that the officer was referring to an area Then the upper pod seen on Nebula-class starships. As this pod is located upward of the bridge, usually referred to as Deck 1, alternate designations may have been assigned to the interiors of this section of the ship. This is the second DS9 episode in a row to use a light redress of the Star Trek Voyager break set. It appears as the brig of the USS Honshu after appearing as a brig on the Federation starbase in the previous episode, The Magnificent Ferengi. Armor Sherman and Kira Golovkin do not appear in this episode. The Type 6 shuttlecraft makes its first DS9 appearance in this episode. So overall, I think this is a really good episode and definitely an interesting exploration into Todd's mind and his psychology and who he is and stuff like that. So, yeah. So overall, I give Waltz 5 warp cores out of 5. But anyway, tune in as we take the final episode of the day, Who Mourns for Morn. So, until then, live long and prosper, everybody.